Only 7 days left, just 7 days until July 18. And if the most obsessive, most detailed, and most talked about theory on the internet is true, then these are the final 7 days before Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce turn one of the most watched love stories on the planet into the wedding event of the decade. Something has shifted online, you can feel it. TikTok is flooded with countdown edits. X is packed with threads, screenshots, timestamp breakdowns, outfit comparisons, number theories, anniversary math, and people acting like they are one clue away from cracking the entire thing wide open. And at the center of all of it is one date, July 18. People are not treating it like a random guess anymore. They are treating it like a destination, like the final square on a map they have been trying to complete for months. And what makes this theory hit harder than all the others is that it does not feel vague. It feels focused. It feels like a countdown. It feels like every little breadcrumb has been leading here. So now the question is impossible to ignore. Are Taylor and Travis really counting down to a wedding on July 18? Or has the internet done what it does best and turned 1,000 coincidences into one perfect story? Either way, with only 7 days left until July 18, people are not just watching anymore. They are waiting. To understand why this theory has exploded the way it has, you have to understand the pattern behind it. Taylor Swift has spent her entire career teaching people to look closer. That is not fan exaggeration. That is her language. Hidden meaning, symbolic callbacks, recurring numbers, coded visuals, layered references, clues that only make sense later, that has been part of her brand for years. She trained millions of people to believe that nothing is accidental, that details matter, that timing matters, that a color is never just a color, and a number is never just a number. And once you build that culture around your art, your audience does not stop decoding when the album ends. They keep decoding everything. And now that same instinct has turned directly toward her relationship with Travis Kelce. More specifically, toward the one question people have been asking nonstop ever since this became more than just a headline romance. When is the wedding? According to the theory taking over the internet right now, the answer is July 18. And now that there are only 7 days left until July 18, every post, every appearance, every sentence feels louder than it should. The theory, at least the version people cannot stop talking about, did not begin with some giant reveal. It began the way these things usually do, with something small enough to dismiss. A post, a caption, a number, a time. Then someone said, wait. Fans started noticing that recent public moments seemed to orbit around familiar Taylor-coded symbolism. The number 13 kept coming up in ways people felt were too neat to ignore. If you know anything about Taylor Swift fandom culture, then you already know why that matters. 13 is not just a number in that universe. It is mythology, it is luck, it is identity, it is part of the emotional architecture of her public image. So once fans started seeing even the faintest 13-shaped outline around recent activity, they locked in immediately. Then people started pulling timestamps, caption lengths, upload patterns, calendar alignments. And before long, someone circled one date and said, if this really is a countdown, it ends on July 18. That is when everything changed. Because once a theory gets a date, it stops being a floating rumor and starts becoming an event. July 18 gave the theory a target. And now that July 18 is only 7 days away, the internet is treating every new detail like a possible final clue. What makes this theory stick is that it is not based on one dramatic piece of evidence. It is built out of layers, small signals, repeating patterns, public moments that do not prove anything on their own, but together feel strange enough to keep people hooked. One of the most talked about angles is the recurring blue palette. Fans have lined up several appearances and pointed out that Taylor has shown up multiple times in shades that people instantly labeled as bridal-coded. Soft blue, powder blue, calm, elegant, subtle, and immediately tied in the minds of millions to one phrase, something blue. Now, in any normal situation, that would be easy to explain away. Stylists repeat palettes. Celebrities wear similar tones all the time. Fashion cycles exist. But the internet is not reading this in a normal context. It is reading it through the lens of July 18. So once you place those blue looks inside a 7-day countdown narrative, they stop feeling random to the people who believe this theory. They start feeling deliberate, like visual foreshadowing, like the kind of thing that only seems obvious after the reveal. And that is exactly the kind of storytelling Taylor's fan base has been trained to believe in. Which is why, with only 7 days left until July 18, people are going back through every old photo and treating those blue looks like early warning signs. Then there is the aesthetic angle, and this is where the theory gets even more cinematic. Old interview clips have resurfaced, archived comments, past descriptions of what a dream wedding vibe might look like, soft lighting, intimate atmosphere, warm, almost storybook energy. The kind of event that feels less like a celebrity spectacle and more like a scene from a romantic film. None of that confirms anything, obviously. But the fandom is not using it as confirmation. They are using it as emotional alignment. They are saying that if a private wedding really were being planned, the mood people imagine for it already exists in fragments across years of public material. And once again, all roads in that conversation keep circling back to July 18. Because if there are only 7 days left until July 18, then suddenly those old words do not feel like distant fantasies. They feel like blueprints people are desperately trying to match to the present. That is the power of a countdown. It turns old information into active evidence. Another reason July 18 has taken hold so hard is the relationship timeline itself. Fans love symbolic dates. They love milestone math. They love the idea that anything major would happen on a random day if there was a more meaningful one available. So people have been trying to line up emotional markers, anniversary logic, public relationship beats, and the couple's visible arc to argue that July 18 would make sense not just as a date, but as a statement. A date that feels intentional, a date that can carry symbolism, a date close enough to real life to be believable, but dramatic enough to feel like destiny. Whether any of that is actually true is still completely unconfirmed. But theories do not spread because they are airtight. They spread because they are satisfying. And this one is deeply satisfying to the people who want to believe in it. Because July 18 does not just sound possible. To them, it sounds right. And with only 7 days left until July 18, that feeling of rightness is becoming more intense by the hour. Then there is the silence. And honestly, the silence may be doing more work than any clue ever could. No clear denial, no direct shutdown. No statement telling people to calm down and stop spinning stories out of public breadcrumbs. In celebrity culture, silence always splits the audience into two camps. One side says silence means nothing, the other says silence means everything. And right now, because there are only 7 days left until July 18, the second side is much louder. Because in the mind of an online fandom, silence is never empty. Silence is interpreted. Silence becomes strategy. Silence becomes protection. Silence becomes a wall around something too important to address openly. Is that fair? Not necessarily. Is it rational? Debatable. But is it effective at keeping the theory alive? Absolutely. Every day that passes without a hard denial makes July 18 feel just a little more dangerous to ignore. And this is where the theory stops being just celebrity gossip and starts becoming something bigger, a live internet event. People are not merely guessing anymore. They are tracking, building, posting, updating. Countdown videos are being structured day by day. 7 days left until July 18, 6 days left until July 18, 5 days left until July 18. Every day gets a theme. One day is for number clues, one day is for the blue outfit theory, one day is for the timeline breakdown, one day is for private location speculation. One day is for ring zooms and bracelet close-ups and body language analysis. It is no longer one rumor, it is a content ecosystem. And that is why this feels so much bigger than a random wedding theory. The internet has already turned July 18 into a cultural checkpoint. Whether anything happens or not, people have decided this date matters. That is the really fascinating part. Even if July 18 comes and goes with no confirmation, the date itself has already become iconic in online fan culture. Because once enough people agree to care about a date, the date takes on a life of its own. It becomes symbolic before it becomes factual. It becomes emotionally loaded before it becomes verifiable. And right now, July 18 is carrying all of that weight. It is carrying expectation, curiosity, hope, suspicion, anxiety, competition. Because everyone wants to be early. Everyone wants to be the person who saw it first. The person who said, I knew it. The person who posted about July 18 before the rest of the internet caught up. That need to be early is one of the biggest reasons this theory has spread so fast. People do not just want to watch a huge moment, they want proof that they understood it before it arrived. Of course, critics are pushing back, and some of their points are strong. They are saying this is exactly what fandoms do. They take a set of disconnected details and project a complete story onto them. They point out that Taylor-related number theories have existed forever, that repeated colors can mean absolutely nothing, that private travel is private travel, that celebrity silence is standard practice, not coded confirmation. And they are right to say all of that. Because if you remove the countdown, if you remove the emotional momentum, if you remove July 18 from the center of the board, many of these clues would look much smaller. But that is exactly the point. The countdown changes everything. Once people believe there are only 7 days left until July 18, every minor detail starts feeling urgent. And urgency is what transforms weak clues into compelling ones. There is also something uniquely powerful about the number 7 in this story. 7 days is close enough to feel immediate, but long enough to build suspense. If the rumored date were 7 months away, people would lose interest. If it were tomorrow, there would be no time to build. But 7 days until July 18, that is the sweet spot. It gives content creators enough time to post theories, enough time for fans to panic, enough time for rumors to escalate, enough time for every silent public move to be magnified. It turns the story into episodic drama. Day 7 feels like the opening act. Day 6 raises the stakes. Day 5 makes people go back through old footage. Day 4 revives the outfit discourse. Day 3 becomes full speculation mode. Day 2 is where everyone starts saying, if this is fake, someone would have shut it down by now. Day 1 becomes pure chaos. And then July 18 arrives. Music, that structure is irresistible. It is almost too perfect for the internet. The Travis side of the theory is helping too. If this were only Taylor-coded decoding, people might dismiss it as another round of classic Swiftie over-analysis, but because Travis is part of the equation, the theory gets a second energy source. Fans have been interpreting his public vibe as more grounded, more future-facing, more settled. Again, that is subjective. It is not proof. But fandoms run on emotional reading as much as they run on factual analysis. People have clipped interviews, compared moments, and started saying that he carries himself like someone already living inside a serious forever-type relationship. Then they plug that impression right back into July 18. They say he looks ready, she looks calm, the timeline fits, the clues feel connected, the silence feels strategic. The date feels meaningful. Whether those conclusions are real or projected hardly matters once enough people start repeating them. Repetition gives theories weight. And right now, July 18 has an enormous amount of repeated emotional weight behind it. What really gives this story velocity, though, is atmosphere. More than evidence, more than timestamps, more than blue dresses or number patterns, this theory is thriving because it feels like something is building. That feeling matters more than people admit. Some rumors fail because they never create a mood. This one created a mood almost instantly, a mood of inevitability. A mood that says maybe we do not know everything, but we are getting close to something. And with only 7 days left until July 18, that mood has become almost impossible to escape online. Every new post gets read through the theory. Every quiet day gets read through the theory. Every old clip gets dragged into the theory. The story has become a filter through which fans are now processing reality. And that says a lot about how modern fandom works. 20 years ago, a story like this would have moved through tabloids. Slowly, messily, with plenty of gaps. Now it is being built in real time by fan communities, creators, discussion threads, video essays, and people with way too much patience for side-by-side comparisons. Entire speculative worlds are forming around July 18. People are effectively crowdsourcing an investigation into the private lives of two public figures, and they are doing it with the discipline of a newsroom and the emotional investment of a season finale. It is impressive, it is intense, it is also a little unsettling, but above all, it is effective. Because once a crowd agrees to examine something this closely, even ordinary details start looking charged. That raises the bigger question at the heart of all this. Are fans discovering meaning, or are they manufacturing it? That is the tension driving the entire July 18 obsession. On one side, you have people saying that Taylor spent years embedding hidden meanings into the public art and image, so of course people are going to keep looking for hidden meaning now. On the other side, you have people saying there is a line between enjoying Easter eggs and projecting an entire secret wedding countdown onto two human beings. Both sides have a point. Both sides are participating in the same machine. Because even the criticism feeds the theory. Every pushback thread becomes another place where July 18 gets repeated. Every skeptical post still keeps the date alive. Every debunk attempt still reminds people that there are only 7 days left until July 18, and that is what makes this so hard to kill. The theory has become self-sustaining. If nothing happens publicly, believers can say the event was private. If there is no announcement, they can say the reveal is delayed. If the date passes quietly, they can say the real significance was symbolic or hidden. In other words, the theory has been built in a way that almost every outcome can be absorbed back into the story. And that is exactly how powerful internet myths survive. They are flexible enough to bend around reality without fully breaking, which means July 18 is now more than a prediction. It is a test of whether the fandom has actually seen something real, or whether the entire internet has spent days building a palace out of smoke. If you look at it from a storytelling angle, that is what makes this script work so well. It is not just about whether a wedding happens, it is about what happens when the internet believes it has found a deadline. Deadlines create tension. Tension creates obsession. Obsession creates content. Content creates momentum, and momentum turns a rumor into a phenomenon. That is why the central line of this whole story hits so hard. Only 7 days left until July 18. It contains urgency, mystery, romance, and the promise of a reveal. It makes people stop scrolling. It makes them want to know what happens next. And emotionally, that matters. Because beneath all the decoding and all the theories is something much simpler. Hope. Hope that one of the most watched love stories in modern pop culture really is approaching a major next chapter. Hope that the internet's wildest guesses are, for once, leading to something real. Hope that July 18 becomes one of those dates fans remember forever, not because it trended, but because it delivered. Even people who claim they do not believe it are still watching, still checking, still waiting, because part of them wants to see what happens if this turns out to be true. That is why the 7-day countdown feels so dramatic. It compresses all of that hope into a single week. It gives fantasy a finish line. Imagine the morning of July 18. Even if nothing is announced, people will be refreshing constantly. If a photo leaks, the entire internet will explode. If there is a cryptic caption, it will be analyzed frame by frame, word by word, emoji by emoji. If there is total silence, that silence will become its own headline. Why is no one saying anything? Was the event private? Is the reveal being held back? Did the internet get the date wrong by 24 hours? Is the announcement coming after the ceremony? You can already hear the posts writing themselves. That is how much power July 18 has gained in this narrative. It no longer needs confirmation to dominate attention, it only needs to arrive. And that may be the clearest sign that this theory has already won, no matter what happens next. Because the internet has succeeded in transforming a possible date into a must-watch moment. It has turned speculation into suspense, it has turned timing into drama, it has turned an ordinary day on the calendar into a symbol. And now that there are only 7 days left until July 18, every second feels like part of the build. Every post feels like maybe the last clue before the reveal. Every public sighting feels like maybe the final breadcrumb before everything changes. At the same time, it is important to stay honest about what we do not know. We do not have a confirmed venue. We do not have a confirmed guest list. We do not have a formal announcement. We do not have a verified statement from either camp saying July 18 means anything at all. What we have is a mountain of interpretation, some of it smart, some of it clearly stretched, some of it built on real patterns, some of it built on pure wishful thinking, but all of it tied together by one incredibly sticky idea, that there are only 7 days left until July 18, and something huge might be waiting on the other side of that countdown. That is why this is bigger than a celebrity rumor. It is a case study in digital culture. It shows how fast communities can build a narrative when they share the same symbols, the same references, and the same emotional investment. It shows how a date can become meaningful before it becomes factual. It shows how fandom can make a story feel real long before reality catches up. And most of all, it shows that when it comes to Taylor Swift, nothing stays small for long. A number becomes a theory becomes a thread becomes a movement becomes a countdown, and a countdown becomes July 18. So where does that leave us now? Right on the edge. Only 7 days left until July 18. 7 days between theory and reality. 7 days between internet myth and possible confirmation. 7 days before everyone either celebrates the most iconic celebrity prediction in recent memory or looks back and admits they all got swept up in a beautifully constructed spiral. But either way, July 18 is no longer just a date. It is now a pressure point, a moment the internet has chosen to charge with meaning, a day people have already emotionally circled in red. And maybe that is the most interesting part of all. Whether July 18 is real or not, the anticipation around it is real. The obsession is real. The curiosity is real. The countdown is real. People are living inside this story right now, posting through it, arguing through it, hoping through it, and with each passing day, the question gets louder. Is July 18 really the day? Is this the final week before the biggest celebrity wedding shockwave in years? Or is this the internet once again proving that when enough people want a story badly enough, they can almost make it feel true before it ever happens? For now, all anyone can do is watch the clock. Watch the posts, watch the silence, watch the details people insist are not random, because the waiting phase has officially started. The long-distance speculation is over. The real-time countdowns is here. Music only 7 days left until July 18. And once that day arrives, one way or another, the theory meets reality. Music. So now the world is holding its breath. If July 18 delivers, this becomes a legendary chapter in pop culture history. If it does not, it becomes a legendary example of internet obsession building a perfect illusion. Either outcome is unforgettable. But until then, the date remains standing there, impossible to ignore, pulling more attention toward itself with every hour that passes. July 18, only 7 days away. And for millions of people online, that is more than enough to believe that something big is coming.